Yesterday, only 2 teams maintained their hold on first. We'll see if Optic or Cloud9 can continue the win streak with our games today. Game 1, though, has our reigning champs posting up against a struggling CLG, and we'll see who can perform in that battle in not too long. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LCS Countdown, where for 30 minutes we rate the effectiveness of people's off-season moves, and some cats weigh in on predictions until the timer reaches 0, and we jump into Champions Select. We currently have a tie for first between Cloud9, one of the Titans from last split, and an unexpected usurper in Optic Gaming, while Team Liquid sits behind them at 2-1, and of course we have TSM tied in 5th at 1-2. Of the top 3, though, coming into summer, Cloud9 are performing to the title of Titan. Team Liquid, they faltered once, but we expected that there would be some sort of come down from MSI. It really is only TSM so far that has underperformed of the 3.
And it does feel like a large part of the focus is on that kind of jungle situation as they try and figure out who their starter is going to be, but I think that's a little too narrow-sighted if that's all you're looking at is the only problems this team is facing. I think Broken Blade has been not as good about generating his own leads. Bjergsen has not looked as active as he was in the height of TSM's power last split, and their bot lane is not performing either.
And it makes me sad because this team was so close to sweeping Team Liquid and going to MSI that I just can't help but wonder that that upwards trajectory that they had towards the back half of spring in the playoffs is now being second-guessed by the entire team, because now you're subbing in players and you're messing with what worked before. And it seems like had they not gotten to be so close to winning that they would have kept on going instead of trying to change things up. And now they need to just reset and figure out what it was that got them that late game magic.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is you see the lowest goal difference at 20 in the league. They have played 2 Sonateric games, which is a pretty slow starting comp. But at the same time, it's how they look as they're kind of trying to get off the ground with that. And it's been some mechanical misplays, it's been some questionable decision making, and it's one of those things where you know TSM is better than this, so you're kind of waiting for the other foot to drop. Right. But we were, hearing about the Korean boot camp and all this stuff that they were doing, we were hoping they came out the gate hot.
I got all the stock. I got all TSM stock. I really believe it.
Look, a lot of people were bought into TSM coming into the summer split because of their finish, as you mentioned, from spring. And I think that, yes, there was the context of the jungle swapping situation from the beginning of the year. TSM was quite vocal about our intention was to start Grig. He's out with injury. We're going to have Acadian in, but at some point we plan to use these guys, in tandem to really figure out who the best starting roster is. But to your point, Crumbs, you are 1 game away from sweeping TL in the finals with a given roster. All indications there are that that roster is working. So why is that the catalyst for saying now's the time to go back to swapping the junglers and trying to figure out who's better when you already have a finals-worthy roster?
I think they do it because of the commitment they made at the start of spring, which was to Grig. We wanted to have Grig. He got injured. All right, now you bring in Acadian. And so in the summer, you are now wondering, well, how good was Grig? We wanted him in the first place. Can we integrate him? Is he still the person that we want on this team? So I think that they're really just trying to figure out if that bet that they placed at the start of the year was the one that was going to be the right call. And so now they're trying to figure out, is it Grig or Acadian, or is it both, which is just a turbulent zone.
Well, but then a fair explanation, right? And it makes sense then why they're exercising, at least in these early splits, their ability to flex those junglers. But then my question to you, Mark, is at what point in the split does TSM need to commit to one of the 2 junglers, either or?
For me, I would say it's post-Rift Rivals. They're going to be going there. I think you're going to go up against the best region in the world in Europe, and you'll get a lot of good practice against them. And you will see, people say when you play against the best teams, you kind of get exposed. You will get exposed in some regard, but it'll be for the best. And then I think after that point, you should have a good feeling about who you want to commit to, and then you have the rest of that split to kind of build up that synergy with whoever you pick.
So we'll give them a little bit more runway before we condemn them for the swapping of the junglers. It's important to note, though, that there wasn't a void left in their absence of performance, as Optic, of all teams, has stepped up quite a great deal here at the beginning of the split.
I'm loving what I'm seeing out of Optic. Everything we addressed for them in spring, they've fixed. They look so much better. Meteos and Crown are kicking ass. The top Dokla figured it out, and now they actually are going to try to run the gauntlet going up against 4 playoff teams in the next 4 matches. So I really want to see these guys perform because they would change up the league drastically.
And I mean, we haven't seen them against other playoff teams yet, but the fact that they've already handily defeated the non-playoff teams that they were battling with last split means that they have improved compared to their peers, because they are clearly at least a top 7 team, which they were at last time. So they've improved a little bit. The question is how much, and this is what this next strength of schedule will prove to us.
The next 4 matches will be very telling in terms of optics improvement over the splits. But when a team's aim is to come out the gate swinging, some players, they started off with a pocket pick or a killer carry performance. Then, of course, there are the pros who shake off the Rakan rust, just to say, I'm helping, presented by State Farm. In his game versus 100 Thieves, CoreJJ makes a liar out of Doublelift as he saves him from a dive and picks up a kill on the way out.
As Amazing moves into the enemy jungle, and Aframu and Bang go for the 2 versus 1 on the Doublelift here on the bottom side. A nicely timed ulti. Gonna be keeping Doublelift alive, but they can't find the kill.
They're going at me, they're going at me.
Keep running.
I might be dead.
I'm trying to run.
Flash. I have a TP.
Oh, nice. I think I can save you.
I think Olaf is there.
Keep running.
I'm dead.
I'm taking my pip. Wait.
You know, nice job.
All right.
We can.
Resetting.
Can cover top.
I will not let you die.
I love that he tells Peter, nice job. I'll never let you die.
Good bait. Yeah,
It's like the classic thing from a movie when someone's like, I'm gonna die.
Right.
I'm gonna die. They're like,
You're
in like
fine.
1 foot of
Yeah,
water.
you're fine.
You know? Yeah.
You're fine. I mean, I love it. I think I'm gonna die. Then CoreJJ says blatantly, I can save you. After that, Doublelift goes, I'm dead. It's like the story of 2 different players, kind of visualization of the way things are going to play
That's
out.
what Bang was saying about CoreJJ, that when he speaks, it's so soothing. It calms you. It makes you feel loved and safe. Like, oh, good job. I know I did nothing, but thank you.
Absolutely love it. CoreJJ, of course, has been a star on the LCS stage since he joined us earlier in spring. But he's going to be joining us again here for Game 1 up against that struggling CounterLogic Gaming, as we have talked about. Then, of course, 100 Thieves, they hope to pick up their first win versus Clutch. 3 more games until the LCS Cooldown with Licorice and Sneaky. Looking forward to that. Followed by our Academy broadcast of Cloud9 Academy versus Echo Fox to close out this weekend. Now, turning to that first matchup, the jury is still out on CLG's offseason roster move, but Stixay appreciates what Ruin brings to the team.
I think Tarshan's the type where he's definitely very vocal about what he wants to do, how he wants to play his lane. He wants a lot of resources top and stuff like that, where Ruin's he kind of just doesn't really need a lot. He knows his role in the game regardless of what champion he's playing, and it just lets us do our thing, but can also play off top side if we need to. So yeah, he's just, I would say, very versatile. And yeah, it just feels really good. He always kind of understands what's best on the map to do, even though maybe he's gonna get behind for it. He just understands that's the best thing to do for us to win.
I think you can tell that he has been performing really well. Rune, he is probably an upgrade over Darshan at this point, but I think the question is that enough to get them over the hump and back into playoffs? Because there were other problems going on in these games, as we saw last split and now this split as well. There have been some draft concerns in Game 2 and Game 3 that they've played this split, where you're not taking Irelia and Sejuani together, Zaya Rakan together. You're giving TSM their, Sona Taric thing. You're picking triple DPS mage into it. There are still these things that I need to see them fix. It wasn't just all on Darshan.
And I really want to see them empower Wiggly, because he has had some games where you're not really seeing him, and then there's other matches where he just completely demolishes. And I think that when you change up the top laner, the top and jungle synergy is always so important that you have to get that down, make the jungler look good, and then he's going to be able to trickle down into mid, into bottom, and really seal the team as a unit, because that's what the jungler does. He kind of combines every point of pressure and makes sure that plays are made around the map. So this guy needs to be a focal point for CLG and the team for them to move forward as a playoff team.
And while we're looking for Ruin to kind of, slot into the team and really find his footing within that 5-man roster, I do think as well we have to look at Power of Evil as considered probably by many to be the star of the team. We have seen glimpses of brilliance of what we know he can achieve, but some inconsistency even yesterday in his game against Crown, getting the solo kill and then getting solo killed himself, looking to eliminate some of those mistakes, and maybe that can be, one of the catalysts for CLG climbing the rankings.
I think when people got, when CLG got Power Review, people were really excited because it didn't look like he had much help on Optic last year, and they were like, okay, now he's going to have Stixay and Bio and all these other people to help him out.
Right.
And it hasn't quite translated, and it stings even more when Crown, your replacement, comes in and is able to perform so well.
Yeah, without a doubt. And of course, those missteps are highlighted when you put them side by side. Our 3 time champions, their opponents today, who despite the expected post-tournament missteps, they seem to turn it on and close out games effortlessly still.
I mean, I can tell you it's one thing going up against a team that won the last split, but going up against a team that dominated the last year is another story altogether. And this team makes it look easier every single time, and that's just a very positive trait out of them. This is a team that is so stacked with veterans that they don't need to be flashy. They need to just get their basics down and just continue to drill fundamentals. You might be Kobe, but you still practice layups, and that's what they're doing in a lot of these games.
Yeah, I mean, they, like you said, effortless, I think is the word for them because, you know, they're playing against 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves tried diving the bot side, deflected, tried diving the top side, deflected. Mid-game seems to be still kind of close, and out of nowhere, the game's over 10 minutes later. They're so good about closing out when you give them the smallest little bit into the game.
Right, and if this is their weakest state here, just coming back
Right.
tired from an international tournament, they're all that much more scary as the season ramps up. They'll match up in just about 19 minutes. Until then, we're taking a quick break, but meet us back here for more LCS Countdown.
Yeah.
Oh my
You
God.
did it.
I just
On
pulled a
air.
quick shot here on the LCS. Forgive me, the countdown. We're coming back in a bit. Oh, man.
Flip it.
Welcome back to the LCS Countdown, where we're about 15, 16 minutes away from that first game of the day. While Team Liquid were competing at MSI, every LCS team took those weeks to reflect on spring and come into summer with targeted improvements. So I wanted to get your thoughts on which teams are getting real change or seeing real change from the moves that they've made, and which teams are kind of just remaining the same. Let's start with one of our teams tied for first in Optic Gaming.
Totally changed of what we're seeing out of this team. You got Crown, he's feeling a little bit more confident. Best of all, they've chosen Meteos now as the definite starter.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big change that they made and why they look so different was Dardoch's great. It's not about who's better. It's that Meteos is the better choice for our team.
Yes.
And since they've committed to one, you see the benefits of having one jungler. Maybe another team
And
could have learned that lesson coming into the split.
they've got Dokla just playing Poppy. He's
Yeah.
no longer split pushing on random carries and
him on
being
tank.
isolated. Put him on the tank. If you don't want to go top lane, that's fine. That's a viable strategy.
Right.
Just don't put him on the carry, and they're doing it. Thank you.
Securing their choice in jungler, also securing their choice in play style for the team has netted them a lot more consistency in their victories so far. Again, still a lot to prove to us with their coming matchups. Next up, Golden Guardians. This is a squad that impressed us near the end of last split, but do you feel that anything has really changed between spring and summer?
Froggen added Aurelia to the champion pool. That's about it from what I'm seeing out of Golden Guardians. Like, they still rely so much on Tahm Kench in the bottom lane, and it's still a little bit too early to see the drastic changes that they might have, but honestly, from the first 3 games, it doesn't seem like there's going to be any.
They were a good team in spring. They're still a good team. Froggen always has a huge champion pool, often very unique. It's not a surprise he can add Aurelia to it when he's played Lee Sin in the past. But the way the team is playing as a whole hasn't seemed to change that much. It still feels like the 5th place LCS team right now.
Very much so. All right, last but certainly not least, let's talk about FlyQuest. Finishing 4th in spring, had a tough start here in week 1, did pick up a win just yesterday, though.
I still see FlyQuest as the same team. Yes, they have Viper in the top lane who gets to play Riven just like he did in spring, and you've got Centaurion that gets to experiment with some picks. Bottom lane, relatively okay. Yesterday they won, but they're up against Sonateric. That's an easy lane. So I think that this team does not need to change that much. They just need to refine what worked for them in spring that was good enough for playoffs.
I think I would call them changing. Like, I see them attempting to be different than they were in spring. I think their drafts have been much more focused on skirmishing and early game. Last split, we thought about them as they're the Nocturne team that goes into late game team fights with like an orange support, and it's like this is what they do. Now it's a lot more about early game. Like, there's no way I would have imagined them playing this crazy J4 Elise, Lux, Caitlyn kind of draft that they had yesterday. But I like that they're trying to make it work. They've struggled a little bit, but I think it's the right idea.
Yeah, the results might not be there. The attempt definitely is. Again, we do have faith that they will whip themselves into shape as the weeks fly by. One thing that FlyQuest has changed, though, is the introduction to some degree of Pyke to the scene. Yes, we saw it played at MSI G2.
NA Pyke!
G2 famously bringing this into the top lane. A number of our North American teams now have attempted to do the same thing, struggling to find similar success.
It's ugly.
Yeah, and when you look at how G2 did it, like, it was scrappy. It was ugly. In this game versus SKT, when they kind of premiered it, they went top with Caps, the mid laner, 4 different times. The jungler also
but by 11 minutes.
By 11
right?
minutes,
Yeah.
they did that. You know, that's almost gank every 2 minutes that they're going up top. They also had J4 going up there alone. And it's not like all these plays were clean. They lost a lot of these. They brute forced them. Caps fell massively behind in CS, but they know because of the execute gold, the way that Pyke works, as long as you keep going and they start working, you start making more gold through it. And that's how you have to play with Pyke. Scrappy and aggressive and take as many fights as you can find.
We're not seeing that in NA, though.
No. I mean, by contrast, right, as we kind of roll through the final clips here of G2, I think FlyQuest is the perfect example, Mark, of what you're talking about, not following the blueprint laid out by G2 in how they should be playing around this pick.
Well, they had a counter to it, right? So you don't actually have to play every champion as long as you have an answer to it, and they know that they have the Riven as a response.
Well, you're talking about the response,
yeah,
but more specifically, the way teams are choosing to play around Pyke when they pick it is off as well.
Right, we were going over this clip, Crumbs and I, earlier, and that was a play where at the Gromp, they could have just gone top. You don't have to path perfectly efficiently as your jungler. You need to make the right play. And so Jace was pushing all the way to the top lane, go up there and gank it. Here, for no reason, they swapped their bot lane to the top side. They're ahead of the play, and the Pyke could have followed the enemy bot lane to the Rift Herald. You know there's going to be a fight at Rift Herald, but instead, Pyke stays bot lane and pushes out the wave. They were not nearly aggressive enough, and that's something that I see out of every time an NA team picks Pyke, is they don't chase the fights down. They don't go for the inefficient ganks. North American junglers seem very focused on pathing and efficiency, which is great, but when you take a pick like Pyke, go gank
that
top.
Has to change.
You have to trade flashes, get the Jace's flash down, so the next time you roam inefficiently with your Ryze, Pobelter never went top the entire game, you know, and they only ganked it once, I think. They need to be way more aggressive.
I think the right attitude with Pyke is, if Pyke has ultimate, play around Pyke right now. Go to the Pyke lane, make sure you start getting that R going down, because that's a lot of money, that's a lot of easy kills.
Returning to your point, though, briefly, though, about the counters, because I think that's another thing. While teams have had time to consider the use of Pyke themselves, there's also been more time for people to figure out or decide what their counters are. And we did, of course, see that Riven played into Pyke just yesterday, a very impactful, explosive champion. So if she can find that advantage, you know, in the early to mid game, she can completely run away with it, and Viper's the perfect kind of player to pilot that. We are going to take another quick break. As we go, though, the Rift can be a scary place, but a careful eye can help you spot the dangers around every corner of the map. So let's take a look at what we'll find in this episode of Wild LCS.
On the wilds of the Rift, the line between apex predator and prey can rest in split-second decisions, where the hunters can quickly become the hunted. Echo Fox find themselves falling further and further behind against Cloud9. They must make a bold move before the game slips out of their grasp. The pack form up and prepare a trap for C9. Clearing vision, they position in the pit and wait for their prey to step up and face check. Success. C9 have taken the bait. But the Baron has proven too tempting a prize, and the full might of C9 are descending on Fox. They must run. Fox run, but find their escape is cut off. The hunters close, and Fox is powerless to keep them at bay. The end is swift. And so the great cycle of life continues in the wild LCS.
Welcome back to the LCS Countdown, where Game 1 is coming up in not too long. Always one for more competition, though, and in honor of our new champion, Yuumi, the LCS has invited more analysts to weigh in on predictions.
All right, I have Optic versus FlyQuest. Yako, who are you going to predict? Who's going to win? You like FlyQuest? You like Optic? You gonna pick one? You gonna walk away? Nyako! 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 Nyako, who do you like more? Oh, you like FlyQuest! He picked FlyQuest! There we go! Finally!
Clutch your thieves. Inconclusive.
Inconclusive.
Inconclusive. He clearly picked Clutch. I was gonna
No,
say,
he
I
didn't
don't know
drink.
about-
So he didn't drink out of either. That's the thing. And I'll add the caveat: this cat drinks more toilet water than bowl water. Clean.
Well, so the fact that he even went for the bowl then it speaks volumes
It
of his
really
faith
does.
in Clutch.
It
then.
really does.
All right, I'll call that a.
I'll give you a little fun. The reason they like to drink toilet water is because it has a sound, so it runs. So they're hardwired to think that a stream of water is clean water, whereas a bowl that's sitting water is going to be polluted and dirty.
Gotcha. Cat facts we did not need.
But you
brought
deserve.
to you by
Is your
Crumbs.
toilet always running?
Thank you very
I
much.
don't know.
Okay.
But I think
Well,
it always
now let's get your predictions for the day. Taking a look how you match up with your feline friends. The only difference comes in the 5th game of the day, and that is the one that Nyako went for FlyQuest, so you aligned.
Yeah, I
Now, who predicted first, you or your cat?
I think my cat did actually.
So you cheated off of your cat's homework? Is that what you're telling me?
I didn't cheat off my cat's homework.
What was Nyako's reasoning for the FlyQuest victory? Did
My
you
hand was
dive
when
into
I
that?
put both hands in front of his face. One hand was probably a little closer.
Oh, there
That
it
one.
is. There it is.
I think
already
FlyQuest
looking
is
It's a matter of convenience.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I think FlyQuest is going to do well against Optic. Not
Okay,
just-
why?
Forget the cats.
Yeah.
Okay, for a second.
You've been burned by them so much.
Wait, I got them right yesterday.
That's
Yeah.
one out of like 5.
Whoa, man.
Look, it doesn't matter.
Why do you think they match up well against Optic?
Here's why I think they match up well. I think that they have a superior top lane. Dokla has been playing the kind of tank duty super well, but the mid lane synergy, I think they will actually be pretty evenly matched to versus Crown. I think they have advantages on both side lanes, and Santorin is a very good jungler to match up against Meteos. I feel like Meteos has been the better jungler in almost every matchup that he's played so far. This will be the first time that he's contested very well in the jungle by someone.
What I love about Meteos jungle, he doesn't experiment with random picks. He's like, this is good.
Sejuani.
I play Sejuani. I play Olaf. It always works, and I'm always good at it.
I want to see the Olaf that we're hearing the rumblings of, the more aggressive warrior enchantment Olaf who just kind of runs at your face and steamrolls the game. Hopefully we get it this time around, though. Let's talk about Team Liquid, though, because they suffered rather a loss last week, and there was, of course, a concern around team morale, but we sent Riv to hear how the team's doing.
Thanks, guys. I did have a chance to catch up with TL Kane before the matches today. Asked him a little bit about mentality in week 1. He said the team coming in obviously was still a bit tired. We've heard that quite a bit, but the 2 weeks just wasn't enough to fit scrim schedule and the full regimen back in. They're feeling great coming into week 2, and he even said they felt decent in week 1 game, so the fans should not be worried. Moving forward, I asked them how they will continue to look for improvement and not let success catch up to them like they did last split. He said focusing on getting first and not letting that intensity fall off is always going to be number 1. And he even said they may remedy that if they get first very early by allowing the academy team to play so the main roster can get a little time off. On the note of improvement, I asked him what he as a coach is looking to improve on and what his roles might be to change this season. He said going to these international events with the team has really been an awesome focus for him. And he wants to make sure that what they learn at these events, himself and the team, they do not forget these things. A fun little note, he did say, as we were asking him for teams to watch of TSM and C9, he said GGS might be on that roster of teams to watch. So those are words from Coach Kane before the matches today. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Riv. No rest for the weary here. Looking to secure that postseason positioning. Then perhaps we can sub in the academy roster to get some experience while the main roster rests up.
And I kind of like that idea, you know, if you are going to get first and then kind of falter in your dedication a little bit, which seemed to happen in spring, better to just kind of commit to the resting up and not burning out,
right,
and give yourself that actual time versus kind of half-assing it in the games.
Well, you got jet lag as well coming back from Vietnam, so many different hours of time zones. So you can imagine week 7, you're against a team that maybe hasn't had a single win. You don't need to put in the main team. You don't need to spend the entire week with the team prepping for that. Let the academy team have a little time to shine. Give the guys a break.
They've got quite a few wins, though, to pick up before they secure that post-season positioning. And, of course, they are playing in our first game of the day. With that, we're throwing it out to the Battle Arena for the call.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We are about ready to jump into game number 1 here. I'm Clayton Captain Flowers Reigns. That is Isaac Azale Cummings Bentley, and we will be your chauffeurs for the first couple of games here today.
We're the chauffeurs?
Yeah.
So is this the LCS bus? I assume it's a bus,
This
right?
is not a bus. This is a limousine, sir. We are high quality,
Is
like
the
high
limousine going to be
class,
big enough for all the people?
bougie life here. It's a big old limousine.
Like one of those like Hummer?
We got
almost?
room. No, we're environmentally conscious.
Okay.
It's not a Hummer. It's a
It's a Prius limo?
It's a Prius limousine, but